All right, welcome everybody to another episode of A&I. Today, I'm sitting down with pro snowmobiler Scott Eyer. This is somebody that I think he probably does it the best, but somebody that goes from being like the nicest dude on the street to flipping a switch and becoming an absolute killer on a snowmobile. It almost seems like when you put a helmet on, you become a completely different person, but that just speaks to the level of riding that you're at. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Scott Eyer.
Thank you for
How
that
was that intro?
That was quite the intro. I do appreciate you saying that, but I feel like I don't know, that might be dramatized a bit there, but no, it's cool. I'm happy to be here, and it's cool to be a part of what you got going on now too. So,
thanks, man. Well, that was a good freeballed intro, but I mean, we've gone back a little bit now. We've been buddies for a while, so I'm pretty comfortable around you. But to call out kind of the first thing, I think maybe it was the last time I saw you, it was your Coeur Freshies movie premiere.
Yeah.
How the heck did that go?
Incredible. Like I almost am still speechless about it. Like, so kind of to give a brief, we'll get into this a little bit more in a bit, but a brief background. We've been throwing, my buddy Jaden and I, we've been throwing a winter kickoff party for the last 5 years. This was the 5th year. So, every year it's grown exponentially. Like, it's been pretty crazy. And we started out doing it at Jaden's shop at his personal residence. And it was just a shop party. And we actually raised money for the Idaho Panhandle Avalanche Center. So, all the donations for the raffle items go to IPAC. So, this year, we decided to change locations for a couple of reasons. One, because we were getting way too many people at Jaden and Megan's personal house. So,
well, she has a nice shop, but I remember being like shoulder to shoulder. Yep. I think, what was it, 3 years ago? Unfortunately, I always got plagued with having to go to Finland for snow shows when this came up. But I was stoked because this was the first time I got to actually come back, and it was bigger and better. The
best one. The best one. It was the best one you could have come back to. So, yeah, we actually hosted at Vantage Point Brewing in Coeur d'Alene. So having it in town, Jaden lives like 30 minutes out of town, so like kind of in the sticks. So I think having that there, and then we both ride for All Sport. They're in Liberty Lake, and they donated us completely 100% donated a snowmobile for us to raffle off. So not only did we have the new location in town, but we also had a snowmobile to raffle off, plus all of our other raffles, which were bigger than we've ever had before too. So all of that combined, we ended up having 500 to 600 people show up for this event. And some people said more, some people said less. Like, we don't sell tickets. It's a free event, 100% free event. So, like, we don't know exactly how many, but everybody was like 500-600 people. So, and then we also were able to raise, which was really cool. The coolest part was just over 40 grand for the Avalanche Center. So
that'll go so cool. Far, because other events, I mean, shoot, dude. Other events, like, they're stoked out of their minds if they make a few grand, right? You know, in donations.
Well, and that's the thing is, like, our first event, I think we raised $1,200, and we were stoked on it. We were like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many people that showed up. There's so many people that spent money on stuff to support the Avalanche Center." And we handed Gabe over at IPAC the check for $1,200, and he was stoked. But we were just like, oh my gosh, like, we were able to help out the Avalanche Center. Like, we're gonna be able to do this for years, and obviously, like, it's only grown. So it's cool thing to be part of. And like I said, 100% of those proceeds go to the Avalanche Center. So
I think it's cool. Like, shout out All Sport too, because the sled raffle was definitely a massive proponent to making that 40 grand. But I also think that, like, All Sport gets kind of where they are in this whole sled world. And for us to be where we are in North Idaho, where we have, you know, mountain riding, and we do have avalanche concerns. And, you know, that's something that if a local dealer is seeing the value and supporting those types of things, like, that's a dealer you want to get behind.
Yeah, absolutely. And we love All Sport, obviously. Like, they've been so good to us, and And it's funny. So Caleb Kosturki, he had an event. He's for those of you that don't know who he is, he's basically the biggest snowmobiler in the industry right now. Like debatably, I think he is personally. But he had an event actually the weekend before, and huge event. It was so cool. It was like it's kind of a little bit more like a film festival style. But we had heard that he was giving away a snowmobile, which was super cool. And we were like, oh man, that'd be so cool if we could do that too. But so Jaden and I were talking and we were like, hey, like, do you think Allsport would maybe donate like a Suron or something to give away? And so I went in to Allsport and handed them the posters to put up just for advertising for the event. And Nate comes up to me and he's like, he's our main contact. He came up to me. He's like, so what do you think about giving away a sled at the event? I was like, what? Like out of the blue. I had no idea that was coming at all. And I was like, yes, like that would be amazing. So, yeah, we pushed it pretty hard in the promoting of the event, and it turned out to be what it was. And yeah,
I mean, it had to have shattered your expectations.
Oh yeah. Like, so the previous year shattered our expectations. We raised, I think it was like just over $9,000, and that was just regular raffle. I unfortunately, and we'll get into that later, but I was unfortunately not really a part of it. So big credit to Jaden for still putting on such a big, good event. But we raised just over $9,000, I believe it was, and that was like, no way, like that's insane, you know.
It's a lot of money though. Like that's the thing, and I think a lot of people get jaded by hearing like, oh yeah, $40,000 they donated. That's $40,000 of people's money at the venue
for 3 hours.
For 3 hours.
Yep. 3 hours of time people spent that much money, which again, like it's interesting how it works. Like I've thought about this quite a bit of like once it becomes it's not I guess it's technically a charity event. It's money being donated to a nonprofit. So once you start getting into that, people want to spend money, and it's a great cause. And there's also a lot of really cool stuff you can get out of it. I mean, the prize packages, we have so many donations on the regular raffle side of things too, that you can win, I mean, well over $2,000 worth of stuff just in one package. So your odds are pretty high for what it is. I mean, out of 500 people, like 600 people, you can win big. It's pretty easy to. So, yeah, so it's a fun event. We were so stoked on it this year. And
what was the furthest somebody drove?
I don't know about driving. So
or flew or just traveled from.
So this one, this is kind of cheating a little bit. So Shade from Duradeck. So I ride for Duradeck, the sled decks. They make awesome sled decks, but he is the owner. So he was delivering sled decks to Allsport. Just happened to be showing up that same day. So he's from Minnesota. So technically he drove all the way from Minnesota, given it was like on the way kind of, and just happened to work out. But I did have somebody that we were talking to. He said he was in the Navy and he took leave from San Diego to come to this event. And we were like, no way. Like that's cool. You know, that's really cool. So, that was probably the most meaningful one, but as far as distance, I don't know exactly. I was kind of running around with my head cut off a little bit, but
I do think though, like that level of event where it's like, it's still considered grassroots. You know, where that kid definitely taking leave is, you know, still able to come participate, shake your guys' hand, probably chat up other folks in the industry, or like it provides so much access that potentially other events don't necessarily provide to the folks that you're watching on the screen, which I think is kind of the sick part. But I mean, clearly it's like the community was behind you guys, which was so cool to see.
Right.
Because again, it's snowmobiles.
Well, it's snowmobiles, but it's also like our local area. I feel like we have a pretty unique and cool snowmobile community. Like it's grown like crazy over the last couple of years, which there's a lot of people moving to town. Like we can, that's a whole other topic we can go into, but you know, there's not usually a weekend that you won't see snowmobiles. or you will see.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what I was saying.
Yeah.
Like we go to fill up in the morning at the gas station. We all know the ones that have non-ethanol.
Maverick,
and
shout out.
Yeah, right.
No free ads.
Yeah, right. But you know, it's rare on a weekend, even Fridays, that you won't see snowmobilers filling up sleds, and that's cool, you know. But yeah, like it's just the community comes together, and it's like I said, once it starts becoming, you know, for a good cause, for a nonprofit, for an avalanche center, because they do so much. They do a lot of really good stuff as far as like forecasting goes for the local snowmobile community. And that's another thing that's pretty cool is last year, Gabe came to us and he was like, hey, this is not this year. This is the previous. So 2023-24 season.
Okay.
So, is that right? Yeah, that's right. So he came to us and he was like, we are going to be doing, or after the event, we are going to be doing 5 days a week forecasting. We don't know how we're going to pay for it, but we made the decision. We're going to do it. He came to us after we gave him the just over $9,000 and said, we needed $10,000 to do that. And you guys just funded it. And like that hit me really hard. I think I'm pretty sure it hit Jaden pretty hard too, but it was like, okay, like we're supposed to be doing this. This is for the community. This is a cool thing. Like it's for saving lives and, you know, and spreading awareness for avalanche training and education. So
yeah,
it's just a cool thing to be part of. So,
and I'm always going to shout out, like, it's not a replacement for being like level 1 certified or level 2 certified. However, I mean, I would say the majority of the people that are recreating in the wintertime are using that as a guide, whether or not it's safe to be out.
Right.
And it's not a replacement. And I'm not like condoning that, but it's something that is like saving people from going in to terrible conditions.
Right. Well, and even those that do have their level 1 or level 2, like it's a tool. It's just as much a tool as a beacon is, for instance. Like it's for a different purpose, kind of. But it can tell you whether to ride the meadows or whether to start pushing into the steeper terrain. Like I've had so many days where we get a fresh dump, we're just frothing to get out. Like we are we are just ready for the weekend, and sometimes we even just say screw it and play hooky and go ride during the week. But you know, it's on a sketchy layer, but we look at the forecast and, you know, everything's high and we're like, okay, we're just going to ride meadows. And we have just as much fun riding meadows as we will in the steep stuff, you know? So, yeah. So
I hear it. Well, all right. So let's take a step back because I want to hear, well, I guess this is something I haven't heard much from you. And I don't know if there's a lot of stuff out there on it, but like, we don't have to like beat your origin story with a stick, but like, how did you come about sledding to begin with? I mean, you're kind of born and raised in an area where you really could hammer it.
So my grandparents, my grandpa, he's a diehard snowmobiler. So there's pictures of me when I was, I think, like 3 or 4, sitting on the front of his snowmobile at Mount Spokane. And I obviously was not riding my own snowmobile at that point, but I just loved it. I loved all of that. And like, as I grew up a little bit, you know, I obviously was just dying to get on my own snowmobile. So my parents actually had it gotten me. It was like a little snowmobile, you know, maybe 3 or 4 feet long. It was like a plastic toy.
Cat? Oh,
it wasn't.
Toy.
Yeah, it was a toy, but you could it was like a sled, like a regular sled, like down the hill sled.
Sure.
So I would act like I was riding that everywhere. It's summer, winter. Summer, I wore holes through the bottom of it because I would drag it around in the gravel. And my parents eventually had to just throw it out because it was like gone. So just always loved it. And excuse me, my grandpa obviously was into it very early, and you know, ever since I can remember. But he was all about high marking. Like that was the cool thing. So obviously high marking, shoot climbing, all that stuff, like the Thunderstruck movies. My grandpa had Thunderstruck too. I watched that movie I don't even know how many. I can't even, thousands of times. Like, I'm not even kidding. I can remember that, like, front to back, that whole movie. It was that one, and then there was, I think it was Sled Next 2, I think. Those two movies they had, and I would just, on VHS, and I would play them on repeat just every time I was over at their house.
I love that, dude.
And
that totally, like, all right, sorry, that
Yeah.
totally reminds me of, hopefully other people that are like into power sports have like these same types of stories, because I shit you not, when I was growing up, my dad would play Terra Firma, which was like an old Fox movie for moto, Throttle for the Gold on any Sunday, and he'd play these like all the time. And at some point, like, I'm young, like not even like able to ride a bicycle yet, you know, I was probably like 2 years old or something. And my mom was like working out next to me on like a stationary bike, whatever. And they'd roll out this like horse. It was on springs, like a rocking horse kind of deal. And I'd watch those movies and I would like violently be rocking and just like,
Like
acting like I'm hitting the triples and all the stuff. And like to the point where like I wore the springs out of the thing because I was like, I need to be riding, like I need to get on a bike.
Yeah.
I need to do something. And dude, same though. It's just like taking it all in and like to where the point where you're like, I have to be on this machine.
Yep. Yeah, and I studied those movies. So I guess I'll go back to kind of where I was at in the story. But so my grandparents, they would do Yellowstone, West Yellowstone. My grandpa actually used to do snowmobile guiding through Yellowstone once they like converted to not allowing regular sleds to go through and four strokes and all that. So he would do trips every year to do West Yellowstone, go through the park, do all that stuff. So we used to, my sister and I actually, she doesn't ride anymore, but we would go with my grandparents and we would do the whole tour. We'd stay at Old Faithful Lodge and like do that whole thing. And I loved every second of it. I would hold on to the handlebars in front of my grandpa. And we did that for several years. And then once I think my first sled, I was 9. My grandpa actually borrowed a sled from All Sport, which is funny because now I ride for All Sport. But yeah, he borrowed a sled from All Sport for me to ride. I don't even know what it was. It was old though. It was very old, very small. And my first trip riding my own sled was in McCall. And we would go to this cabin that was snowmobile access only, and it was like no power, so they ran off of generators and stuff there. And we would stay there, and I would just, until dark, I would be out there ripping in the field. And it was so funny because he would let me hop on. He had a 700 Mountain Max, triple, and famous sound. And he would let me hop on that while I was in the field. And I thought it was so cool to just like trench it. So I would just like every 5 feet, just hold it wide open, then let off. And like, I'd look back at the trench and it was like trenched out. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm pretty cool. But yeah, so that was like kind of my younger years. And then I ended up, my grandpa got me a 600 vertical edge. It was a 144. Massive ape hanger handlebars. I was like, hell yeah, way too short for him. And it had a can on it, and I destroyed that sled. I did a lot. I learned a lot on that sled. I learned how to like do wrong foot forward and like pull the sled over and stuff. And then I moved up from there, and kind of the rest is history. But yeah, that's kind of where it started. My grandpa was the one that got me into it. And it was funny. So he, later on, I guess I can talk about this too, but he, again, was all about the high marking. So when I was like 15, he bought an M1000. Okay. Just a tank. And since I was so light, because I was like 120, 130 pounds or something like that. And I was kind of a stick back then. But anyway, he would throw me on that whenever he couldn't get the high mark so that I could get the high mark because I was so light. Because the sled was basically riding itself at that point. But yeah, anyway, so Yeah, that's kind of where it started, and I really learned a lot of like riding from studying snowmobile films. I mean, in high school I learned a lot from the school videos. You know, the Brant and Brett Rasmussen made those a few years ago, quite a few years ago now, but I learned a lot of technical riding from that, and then just studying people's styles of riding, like from the films. And 509 specifically, I've always been a diehard 509 fan guy, you know. But and my dream has always been to like meet these guys and ride with these guys. But we can talk about that in a little bit too.
Well,
but,
now you are one of those guys.
Yeah, and fortunately enough, I'm super grateful to be standing next to him. But yeah, I would just study those, and I'd be like, for reentries, I would be like, all right, I kind of want to learn how to do that. And I learned how to do it, and I just would do it on repeat, and I'd crash all the time learning them, but finally kind of got it figured out, and yeah. Anyway, but
there were a couple of things with that. I guess number one is like, I feel so privileged that I got to learn how to ride a snowmobile on like the Axis chassis.
yeah,
because I hear like, and mind you, like growing up in the Midwest, like these sleds were around, and like, you know, once in a while a buddy would be like, hey, my dad said we could take these sleds out, and you just go like burn ditches and stuff. But like, you never once thought to like throw it on edge and do all that stuff, because it was just like, that's not what we were doing. We were trying to go as fast as we could across the lake.
Yeah.
And so coming out here and having that Axis chassis and like learning and thinking it's still the hardest thing in the fucking world to do.
Right.
But dude, so I feel privileged that's the case. Speaking of like skill and kind of like to where you are today, did you have skill back in the day? Like, did you kind of like know you were a step ahead of others?
Not necessarily. I just loved it. Like there's nothing else in the world that compares to snowmobiling for me. And I've always been obsessed with it. I've always just dreamt of getting better and getting to basically the point that I'm at today. But I just love it. I didn't know that I was good, you know. I knew that I wanted to be good, you know, and I knew that it was like a dream of mine to become, well, we can get into that in a little bit, but it was a dream of mine to become a professional snowmobiler, and that was my goal from day one, just because I loved it so much.
When did you know? Like, when did you know you're like, kind of, I got something here?
So that's funny. There's a little story behind that too. So, this is kind of the start of when I like kind of started reaching out to sponsors and working on that side of things a bit more. But there was this event, Crested Butte, Colorado. It was called the Backcountry Riders Association. Super cool concept, run by the people that should not have run it. But anyway, so it was at a Rimshaw event, which is snowmobile racing, if for those that don't know, hill climb racing, up some really gnarly stuff. But it was at that event, and I got reached out to. I was in college. I think I was a freshman in college. I got reached out to by the guy that was running it, and he was like, hey, we have seen your videos on Facebook. I'd love to get you out there. And I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, little did I know he was kind of reaching out to everybody just because he was like trying to get people there. But I was like, oh my gosh. So I called my parents. I'm like, hey, there's this guy that reached out to me for this event in Colorado. Like, I think it'd be a really cool opportunity to go ride it. So my parents were like, oh yeah, that's kind of a long ways, because I was going to school in Walla Walla, Washington. So
oh yeah, that's a poke.
Yeah, it was a long ways. So yeah, they called me back a little while later, and they're like, all right, we're headed over with your sled. Let's load up and we'll drive over there. So sure enough, we drove all the way from Walla Walla. They drove from Spokane to Walla Walla, Washington. And then from Walla Walla, Washington, we drove to Crested Butte, Colorado through the night to get to this event. And I again, like at the time, I dreamt of becoming a professional athlete in the snowmobile world, but I had never really like considered that I had what it took, you know? And I went to this event, and I show up, and Matt Entz is there, who, again, idol of mine. And Kim, she's on Onash now, Adam Onash, a bunch of like guys from Colorado that were at the time and still are pretty, big names in the industry. And so I just start sweating bullets. I'm like, holy crap. So I show up, I sign up for the amateur class. There's an amateur and pro class. I signed up for the amateur class. I'm the only one that signed up for amateur. So they just put me in the pro class. So I'm like, holy crap, I got to go against these guys now. So first day, I go up, and how the event worked was you had a hillside, and there were judges throughout the hillside, and basically you had to just do backcountry techniques, which, again, super cool concept. And then you were judged based on what you did, how you utilized the terrain you're on. Unfortunately, it was on a ski mountain, it was spring, so it was just super icy. So you couldn't really do a ton. But either way, it was still like, people were trying to pull lines that, were gnarly, trying to do maneuvers, whatever, And the first day, the rule was if you let go of your handlebars, your run was over. So like if you crashed. So I was just all over the place. I was nerves, everything. So like, I don't remember exactly how long the run was, but like maybe 15 seconds in the run, I was like dragging behind the sled, trying to hold on to the bars so it didn't count. Finally, I just let go, and I was like, all right, whatever. So I had actually learned like that winter some like kind of how to do hopovers. And so I was like, I kind of went into the next day, and I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go do a bunch of hopovers in the middle. Like, I can't really do anything on this ice anyways. So I was like, I'm going to go, like, I know that's not something that everybody can do. Like, I'm just going to go for it. So I go up, and I did, I don't know, a dozen hopovers. Like, they weren't true hopovers because it's on ice, but it was enough of a hopover to count as a hopover. And I got some attention. It was pretty interesting to see, like, even my parents were saying like the shift in how everybody were kind of like perceiving me at the time. And so it was really cool. So I finished my run. I actually ended up in second.
Dude,
in the pro class that day. So it was a combined. So overall I didn't do very good, I don't think, but either way, I was like just stoked. And Matt Entz came over, and he was talking to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is my idol, like, And a guy, there's two guys from, I think they're from Steamboat. I don't know exactly, but Cameron Clementi, who he does guiding in Colorado still, and then Josh Nerby, who I think kind of has gotten out of the snowmobiling, but they were like they were stoked on what I had done. And Josh, I think, came up to me, and he's like, hey man, like, have you ever thought about reaching out to any sponsors? And those guys are like they used to go really big back in the day, like the kind of the Sled Next days type era. And I was like, no, I never really even thought about it. So he was like, yeah, you should, I think you totally get some sponsors. Like, you should go for it. I'm like, okay, well, how? So I talked to, he suggested I talk to Cameron, and Cameron has, like I said, been in the industry for years. And he was the one that like helped me form my first like sponsorship email. And sure enough, I wrote the email. I think my first sponsor was Sled Threads, and they were a wrap company, and they were at the event also. And Josh had also worked with them. And, they were my first sponsor. And then I started reaching out to other companies, Motorfist, who unfortunately is not around anymore, but worked with them for a few years before I went to 509. And then, but yeah, that event was kind of when I was like, okay, like maybe I do kind of have it a little bit. I don't know if I have all the other aspects, but I know that I can impress these guys.
That had to have felt so good. Going and like proving yourself.
Yeah, it was cool. It was a cool feeling. And like I said, like the shift in like the perception of all those people that they had of me after I did that run was like noticeable. And that was cool. Like that was like, oh, like I just impressed these professional athletes. Like this is insane, you know? And sure enough, like I was pinching myself, and that's kind of where the whole, you know, athlete side of things started for me. And then obviously, you know, continue to progress, and now I'm at where I'm at today. And unfortunately that event is no longer around, but
that is a rad event. I mean, obviously Riley Suhan's event is not the same by any means around like how that's scored and stuff. But like the backcountry style event is such a sick concept.
It's super cool. The hardest part, I think, and even for Riley too, is spectators, is getting people like how he does the event is really cool. He has it like the starting line. I think he changed it up last year. Unfortunately, I couldn't go last year. But the starting line is at like the warming hut. So everybody just kind of hangs out there. And then the end line, or the finish line, is at the warming hut also. So people can hang out there all day. You know, there's a lot of people that go to it. But getting people to the location for an event like that is kind of challenging sometimes. Like,
you mostly need a sled.
Exactly. Exactly. You have to have a sled.
Which, I mean, the cool thing, like the Rimshaw stuff, like Jackson Hole, for instance, like that hill climb, and honestly other ones that are on the ski resorts where you're able to like ride the gondola up and like watch it right under you. That's one where I think it pulls in. I mean, granted, maybe Jackson doesn't. I don't think the citizens of Jackson love that race, but everyone that comes to it loves that race. Right. But so back it up. Was 509 your first pro contract, or did you have others before that?
It was my first. Well, there's kind of debate on what you call a pro contract and not, but it was my first pro contract. It was with 509. And it's what's funny is I rode helmet and goggles for 509 for, I think it was a year. And then Motorfist was like kind of my main sponsor at the time. And they wanted me full head to toe in their gear. So I actually ended up leaving 509, which is kind of crazy, but I left 509 for a couple years. And then I don't know if you want to start getting into that now, but there were a lot of changes within Motorfist's parent company and everything. It used to be a very small town feel, and big corporation comes in, Textron specifically comes in, they buy Arctic Cat, who owned Motorfist, and then they just didn't know what they were doing. And unfortunately it affects the athletes too, tremendously. So so I ended up, I could kind of see a little bit of the writing on the wall in the future, because I actually went over to their station in Augusta, Georgia, and I spent a couple hours talking to the Motorfist team, or the new Motorfist team, and it was just kind of going in circles, and I was like, I just don't have a good feeling about this. So David McKinney, who's been on the podcast as well, good friend of both of ours, tremendous snowmobiler, works at 509. I reached out to him. I was like, hey, like, you know, do you guys have any room for more athletes or anything? And he's like, oh yeah, if you want to stop by the headquarters sometime, we can chat. And I was like, okay, like I'm not, committing to anything, right now. Cause when I have a deal with someone, I like to make it long-term if I can, and obviously there's lots of factors involved there, but, I didn't want to just jump ship out of nowhere. So went in, talked to David, and obviously he's David, he's cool, and he gave me the whole spiel on like what they could offer for me. And fortunately enough, I was able to get on the ambassador team with them. And I came back, I talked to my wife now, Kelly, who we can talk about her in a bit too, but she was like, I think you should do it. And I was like, I think I'm gonna. So I messaged David and I was like, all right, I think I'm gonna do it. Like I'd love to see a contract, talk furthermore. And then it ended up, I rode for 509, I think for 4 years. And then we were able to work into a pro deal, and I've been on the pro team now for, I think, 4 years. Yeah, 3 or 4 years.
Because I got to see kind of when you when I came on board at 509, you were already an ambassador doing that whole program. And then I was there when you got offered the pro contract, because I remember that being like talked about, you know, where it's like, yeah, we're bringing Scott in as this. And it was kind of like sick. Because I always remember, even like, I think it was when you were an ambassador, especially, was I was like watching how much you were putting out and how much you were doing. And I was kind of like, dang, like this is getting like more eyeball time than some of the guys that I knew were getting paid to do it. And nothing against them and, you know, whatever, they have their contracts that they have to abide by. But I was just like, damn, like this dude deserves it. Like,
well, thank you. I do appreciate you saying that. But yeah, it's always been, 509 has always been the brand that I have like dreamt of being a part of. Like it, in my opinion, it is one of the coolest brands in the whole industry, or if not the most. I think it's the coolest. It always has been.
I mean,
You know.
I'm biased again.
Right? And I am too.
Was employed there, but I would agree. Even now that I'm not employed there and I can say whatever the hell I want, I do agree.
It's just a cool. They've built such a cool brand. Like, obviously the gear is great too. Like I love all the gear and everything, but it's become the cool company, and it is all of the movies, that they've done in the past, and all the webisodes and everything. Like, it's just a cool thing to be a part of. And throughout my whole life, like studying those movies, those 509 films, learning how to ride from studying all those athletes, like it has had such a big impact on me as a person, as well as my riding, you know?
Yeah.
And, it's just been so cool to be a part of.
When I did the episode with David, I think I mentioned it, but it was before I ever knew David. I had like just moved out here. So like sleds weren't even really like on my radar. And I mean, at this point, I hope if you guys are listeners, you know that I'm like diehard dirt bikes, just like Scott is for sleds. But I watched it. Funny enough, you mentioned Kosterky in the beginning, but it was some 509 webisode or something with Kosterky, and it had, you know, sick punk rock on it. It checked all my boxes for something that I thought was sick. And it was like, I don't even know what you call them at this point. I've like made up terms for sled maneuvers, but there was like one where he just like aired out of some hole, you know, and then lands, snow everywhere. You just see him like riding out of it. And, I just remember watching that. I was like, okay, like, well, that's sick. You know, and then I'm like on Marketplace, like,
looking for sleds.
That expensive.
Right.
And then I like reached out to David and was like, dude, like, I need to know more like data on this shit. Like, what do I look for? What should I stay away from? And like, that was really like it. And then I think like a couple messages back and forth, at some point we realized like we're both from the Midwest. And he's
How did you guys meet?
That way.
Was it just literally just messaging about snowmobiles?
Yeah, it was literally just asking like, hey, what do I buy? What do I not buy?
I always thought that you got a job at 509 and then that's how you guys met.
No, we knew before.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe like a year and a half before.
Okay.
I ever worked there.
Interesting.
But yeah, so that got me into it. And then David being David was like, hey, come by All Sport, and then like throws me a free mono suit.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Like, dude, just get into the industry, dude. It's like the best thing ever. So he like watching that though got me into it, which to your point, it was like, how many other guys or gals out there are watching that movie, that webisode, that something, now watching you or other, 509 pro guys and like becoming like getting into the sport, which is just incredible.
Yeah. It's cool. Like, and that's like the goal of doing all this stuff. Obviously, like, the goals have kind of shifted throughout the years a little bit, but like where I'm at now, my goal is to just inspire other people to do it, like to ride. Because ultimately, like if you are inspiring people to ride snowmobiles, like you are satisfying all of your sponsors, because they're going to go out and buy the product. They're going to go out and they want to do what you're doing. And a part of that is to inspire people to just follow their dreams. Because my dream has always been to do what I'm doing right now. And that's to ride for 509 and be a professional athlete on their team. have a numerous other group of amazing sponsors, and it's interesting. I've had 3 goals, when I started doing this, and one was 509 Pro Team, obviously. 2 was to have my own segment in a 509 movie, which unfortunately they're not making movies out anymore. But
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed.
Someday.
Fingers crossed. But being a part of the webisodes is obviously super cool too. And 3 is a factory deal, and that one we'll see. I don't know. I'm obviously thrilled with working with Allsport. They've been so good to me, and I love that. But kind of like the ultimate deal is a factory deal, so obviously like I will forever push for that, and I'll always be grateful and happy where I'm at. But
I mean, even the factory deal though benefits in Allsport too, because
it would,
you're local, you've worked with them, you're gonna more than likely be riding one of the sleds they sell, since they sell Polaris and Skidoo,
right?
Unless you go to Arctic Cat.
No, I don't think I'll go back there. That's a story for another time.
All right, so one of the things I know that you hold pretty near and dear, but like being a pro athlete and really hitting like on the athlete part, like to you, like what makes an athlete an athlete?
That is, especially in the snowmobile industry, a really hard question. To me personally, professionalism is key. But it's snowmobiling. Snowmobiling is a rough crowd. Like we like to have fun. We like to go to the bars after riding. Like that, that's a thing with snowmobiling, and it's part of the culture of snowmobiling, if you want to call it that. But, if you go to any other sport athlete, they're at the gym, they're watching their diet, they're paying attention, they're staying healthy, they're trying to be professional. Like that is a huge aspect, in my opinion, of to what an athlete is and what an athlete should be. And not everybody agrees with that, and that's totally fine. Everybody can have their own opinion and do whatever they want, because I know there's people out there that don't do that. But for me, myself, staying healthy, making sure that I'm in shape for riding. I like this summer, I missed, I think, a week and 3 days at the gym. Like I was on my diet all summer. Like, and obviously, like I have other reasons for staying in shape, because I just want to be a healthy person. But also it's because I want to be the best I can possibly be for my sponsors, and to have the best potential to increase my abilities within snowmobiling. And that right there is what an athlete, in my opinion, an athlete is, or should be, I guess. And that's something we could debate on that and go back and forth
I think
for a while.
I agree with you pretty wholeheartedly. And I think the other kind of awesome part of that lens of being an athlete is, to me too, it like what it does on the mental side when you've put in this work off the sled or off the bike or off, whatever you're doing, it just like gives you the mental edge.
Yep.
And one of the, shout out Dan Staten, he's a hunting influencer, but he always says the separation is in the preparation.
Yep.
And it's like,
I love that statement.
It sticks with me because I'm just like, that's so damn true.
Yep.
Because like, and I'm not going to say any names, but I've seen, guys on the like hill climb circuit, when you have, I'll say the one, like a Keith Curtis.
Oh yeah.
Who's a pretty like straight edge dude, but the thing is he's so badass because of his riding ability and what he can do on a sled.
Right.
Not necessarily like how much he can drink in the bar or what he can do off his sled that makes him so badass. And then you see some of these other guys that I think maybe lived the life off the sled, where they're partying and they're doing that stuff.
Yeah.
And then you watch them on race day and they're like mentally beat before they even do their first run.
Right. And there's some guys that can do both. Like, don't get me wrong, it's rare, but there's some guys that can do both.
But how good would they be if they didn't?
I've always had that thought. But you just don't know. And there's so much more, and this is again a whole other topic, but there's so much more that goes into like being an athlete for sponsors and being a human being, not a robot. Like, there's a lot more than just staying healthy, staying in shape, being the best rider you can be. There's a lot more. But like, again, like the term athlete, in my opinion, is making sure, like, it's just a responsibility that you have.
Yeah.
Is staying healthy, trying to be the best you can possibly be out there.
Yeah. And I think too, I mean, in this, in the current day and age, like personally, I don't think like a role model needs to be setting like more poor things for kids to pick up. Like there's so much of that out there. And I'm not trying to get all philosophical on this, but like in all honesty, like if I had a kiddo running around, like I would want that kid to be looking up to somebody that's like valuing their health. They, are straight edged to the point where they're making smart decisions and they're not, out there just being an idiot in front of the camera and creating all these clickbait things. But then they put the helmet on and they turn into like what you want that kid to be.
Right.
Which is just a beast. When the helmet's on, the helmet comes off, they're polite, they're kind, they're
and fun too. Like again, you want to, like, the point of snowmobiling is having fun. Like
you can be those things and be a fucking blast. Honestly, it's what I learned when I like stopped drinking, which I mean, it's not like I ever had a problem, but it was like something me and my wife wanted to do. We just wanted to stop. Mm-hmm. And we were always worried that like, when we stop, the fun's going to stop. And then you realize that it's like, the alcohol doesn't make the fun. If anything, it actually like ruins the normal things that are just like really fun on a day-to-day basis. And so again, I think there's like, you can still be an awesome dude.
There's a balance for sure.
There's a balance. I mean, get out and live.
Again, it's what the standard, a standard you set for yourself within what you're doing. And that's, I think, the biggest part. And like for myself, the standard fluctuates, but like right now after my injury, and we can talk about that in a bit, but after my injury, my standard has been raised for myself of where I want to be and where I want to be physically and everything and within my health and everything. 'Cause I want to do this as long as I can.
Heck yeah.
And I understand there's a time where you do get too old and the kids are, doing triple backflips or, whatever, and you just can't do it anymore. But like, that's the interesting thing with snowmobiling is the age range. Like you look at motocross and I people might give me crap for this, but I just started watching Supercross like this last year. But anyway,
I hate the never, buddy.
Yeah. So, you look at the age group, you're old when you're like what, 23, 24, a little older than that.
I would say like mid to late 20s.
I know Tomac's older.
You're aging,
but
out of the sport.
Yeah. But you look at snowmobiling, you can start at 15 and that age range goes to 45 years old. Like I don't know exactly how old Brant is, but look at Rasmussen. I mean, Rasmussen is, I don't want to say an age, I guess, but he still guides and does all sorts of crazy stuff still. Like, and has, he rides for Skidoo still, like, lots of big names involved, and you can keep doing it if you want to, and obviously priorities change within life and as you go on, but for some people, but like I said, for myself, I want to do it as long as I can. I love it. I love it.
I'm thinking right now too, back to like why I think I view an athlete the way I view it, or like a professional athlete, not just an athlete, is I think my background with pro motocross, not that I have a background in it, but that's like what I've consumed, my whole life. And that's what I've seen. And like, you see factory riders and they're like, they are all kind of cookie cutter, that way, which is really fun when you have somebody like a Hayden Deegan come on the scene. That's like, he is all of the things and he works probably harder than most of them, but he's like edgy,
right?
Willing to speak out. So like, I get it on both fronts. And I think, on the sled side, what makes it tough always being that way is just the lifestyle that sledders kind of have adopted throughout the years. And, but I think there's, at the end of it, when I'm looking at like the pro guys, and again, of course, there's always times to let loose and have a good time, but I do think probably most of them would kick themselves if they didn't put all of the pieces together to be the best sledder they could be.
Right.
Because the things that like outlast, at least my opinion, the things that outlast as far as a impression, it's like, I don't care that I saw that guy drunk at a bar. I think it's really sick when you watch a Keith Curtis be the king of the mountain for however many classes at Jackson Hill Climb.
Right.
That lasts with me. The other one doesn't.
Right.
Even though one could be perceived as more fun in the moment.
Right. Yeah. No, it's an interesting topic. And like I said, with snowmobiling, there's so many different ways that people look at that. And a lot of people, I mean, I remember when the term athlete was like kind of becoming a thing within snowmobiling, and people would make fun of it. They're like, you're not an athlete, you're just a snowmobiler, you know?
I think it's because a lot of it, I mean, outside of the hill climb racing scene, it's like what you're doing isn't necessarily it's not a race. It's not you're not training for this one event.
Right.
But to be fair, I think anybody that's been in the backcountry and in that terrain, like,
get it.
You watch what you guys do, and you're like, I'm sure as shit not doing that.
Yeah.
And then like you know, again, you watch the level you're doing it on. Like, I'm not even comfortable riding in this terrain yet. You guys are re-entries, the sleds, you know, in the air doing whatever the hell. And it's like, dude, I can't. Athlete's the only term you can use for that.
Yeah.
All right. On a lighter topic, let's talk about your crash.
Lighter topic. I don't know if it's lighter is the right word, but
heavier. Yeah, let's hear this. Which crash?
So, yeah. So up until May of 2023, never broken a bone in my life. Yeah.
Knock on some wood.
That's what everybody told me. And yeah, that wasn't the case. Anyway, so May of 2023, there's a really fun snowmobile event in Cook City, Montana called Sled-Fest. Basically what it is it's the end of May and everybody's sleds are falling apart. Everybody's like had their season. It's pretty much over. This is kind of the last hurrah. So everybody kind of lets loose. Everybody just has fun. We go build a bunch of really big jumps. We go hit all of those jumps until there basically isn't anything left. And then we rebuild it. And we do that until from like, I don't know, mid-morning till like 9 p.m. because the sun's still out. Super fun. It's my all-time favorite weekend of the whole season every year, like by far, even the weekend that in May of 23. Anyway, so I was at an event and I got to that event, or the Sled-Fest event, and we show up. The jumps were built. They show up the day before and build all the jumps. And the main jump was bigger than it had ever been before. I was like, all right, like I've hit this jump, you know, hundreds of times, you know, in previous years because it happened, you know, that event had happened for 5 or 6 years before that. So, you know, comfortable, but every time I get butterflies hitting it for some reason. So I show up and everybody, we go over to this other section we call it the warm up pits. We get kind of warmed up. They're a little bit smaller. And then we go over to the main event spot and people were hitting it. And so I go up to somebody and I'm like, hey, like, you know, it seems like you guys are going pretty fast. It looks way bigger than normal. Like how fast are you hitting? And they're the person, whoever it was, I don't remember, but they were like, yeah, hold it wide open the whole way. And I'm like, okay, well, my belt's old. I have the wrong weights in my sled. Maybe I should adjust them because I had adjustable weights. So I pull some weight out, put a brand new belt on, and I gained probably 300 or 400 RPM.
Oh my God.
So everybody else's sleds were not running at peak performance either. So mine was after I made those adjustments. So I hold it to the bar the entire way, and which I learned later, a few years later, that was my fault at gauging jumps. Anyway, so I hit it, and my track, I could tell I was going way too deep. We guessed about 200 feet or so, which now I've hit 200-foot jumps and like, they're fun and stuff. But anyway, I knew I was going way too deep on this jump. And I started going sideways and I locked the brake because I freaked out. So for those of you that don't know, with snowmobiles or dirt bikes, if you lock up the rear wheel, you lose that gyro effect. So if you're going sideways, it doesn't want to come back. So I was mid-jump. I went, this is not good. So I bailed off the sled, and the sled tomahawked down the hill. I flailed for a ways, and like I said, I'd never broken a bone before this, and I was like that feeling when you like hit your leg or you hit your like a bone, and it just is like pain, and you just have to like give it, I don't know, a minute, and then it goes away. Mm-hmm. Well, I had that pain in my right leg, and I was like, it'll go away. Like, just give it a few seconds. And then it didn't go away, and it got worse. And I was like, oh boy, this is not good. So I tried kind of standing up, and I put a little weight on it, and then I just start yelling because I knew it was broken. I was in so much pain, and the shock, the adrenaline kind of wore off a little bit, and I was feeling it. So sure enough, I broke my it was my fibula. I broke that, like, I don't know, a couple inches up on my fibula off. I broke and dislocated my inner malleolus, which is like the bump on the inside of your ankle. Mm-hmm. So it was actually like trying to poke through the skin.
Is that considered not the bump on the ankle, but the other one, is that considered high ankle break or a low leg break?
I think it's still considered ankle down there.
Okay.
And then I chipped the back of my tibia pretty bad. And then I tore the ligament completely in half that holds your tibia and fibula together. So this all happened, and obviously, like, it's crazy. There's a video of it, but when it happened, I bailed, and like, there's a drone shot, and there's like 200 or 300 people at this event, and you just see a swarm of people come over, and like, it's cool. That's something to go for the sled community, But they all came over to like see if I was okay, and obviously I was okay, but I wasn't okay. So we splinted up my foot. My leg, and I still had sled boots on. So I was like, and this is a pitch for Lifelight. Definitely get Lifelight. I didn't have Lifelight at the time, which is stupid on me.
You mean Lifelight insurance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, insurance. So I wasn't like, it wasn't a head injury or anything. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna ride out of here. So it was like, I always say it's about 10 miles. I don't know if it was quite that far, but we splinted up my leg, and I actually rode out with my like foot dangling. So that sucked. All the guys, we were camping on this trip in the trailer because it's warm at this time of year. So they ran back to the trailer, started loading everything up. We had 5 guys in the truck with us. So I sat in the back seat, driver's side, so I could prop my right leg up on the armrest. And there's no service either. So that is great. So I propped my leg up. We have to drive like 3 hours through the park and then to Bozeman to get to a hospital. So sure enough, we do it. And what's crazy is my buddy Justin, who's had a numerous amount of injuries, actually had a broken foot at the time, was at Sledfest hitting jumps, but had crutches with him. So I had crutches to use. So it was funny. We walked into the Bozeman hospital, and Justin is in a boot walking because he's not supposed to be out of like a medical boot. And I walk in with crutches, hobble in with crutches. And the lady at the desk is like, so who are we working with here? Like, and I was like, oh, it's me. Like, I have a broken leg. So we got like kind of set up there. They set it. And then I really did not want to do surgery in Bozeman because I live in Coeur d'Alene. So wanted to get back to Coeur d'Alene. So my brother-in-law at the time lived at the time in Bozeman. So we stayed there the night there, and then we drove like six hours home. met my wife at the house. The guys unloaded the trailer. We went to the ER, and I had surgery, I think, the next day. So ended up, I don't even remember how many screws it was on that round, but it was like 7 or 8 screws, a plate, and then some pins, and then a thing called a tight rope that replaces the ligament in there. So that was that round.
Dude, I remember this happening because I felt so gutted for you because you had been putting in a ton of work and you had put in a ton of work for the season, but it was kind of like, okay, like at least the season's over.
Right.
He has the summer to recover. But then that wasn't it, was it?
No. So, well, that was it for that year, I guess. So I went through summer, recovered.
Which I believe we mountain biked a ton that summer.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, because I was trying to build my leg strength back up, obviously. But it was considered a good break. Obviously, I needed surgery, but it wasn't anything crazy severe. So, rode all that whole season. It was great. It never really bugged me too much. I adapted to it. And then the next summer comes around. Well, All Sport, who again is awesome, and they have zero blame here whatsoever, but they also are a dealer for Sur-Ron. So like the electric dirt bikes basically. So it was September 22 of 2024. All Sport gave us some Sur-Rons for the summer, and we just ripped around like all summer long, which was a blast. But so we got kind of comfortable on them, and they had a demo day at an arena cross event. So they invited us out. They're like, hey, do you want to come out, and just kind of, ride the track a little bit? And I have always told myself I will never set foot on a motocross track because I have way too many friends that have gotten seriously injured riding motocross at a track, which, again, huge respect to the guys that do it. But anyway, so we go to this event, and they're demoing the bigger Sur-Rons, which Sur-Ron is a very China-made company, like Chinese, quality company. Unfortunately, it's just the case. But their shocks, their suspension, everything is very poorly made. Like it's not quality at all. You can build them up, if you want to. But it was the bigger. I think it was the Ultra B that they had there. So. My buddy Hayden, he has ridden dirt bikes quite a bit. I had never until Sur-Rons, basically. So there's a table at the arena cross track, and it's like probably 20, 30 foot table. And he hits it like a dozen times, and he's like, oh, that was super fun. I love jumping, like snowmobiles. I love jumping. It's like what I have the most fun doing. So just being in the air is fun for me. Mm-hmm. So I was like, oh, like, maybe I could hit it. So I kind of like run it up a couple times. And I asked Hayden, and I'm like, hey, how fast should I hit it? He's like, hold it wide open.
To the bar.
God, why, like this, obviously I need to just gauge it myself from now on. Unfortunately, it took 2 rounds. But so sure enough, I hold it wide open. I land flat on impact. I bottomed out the suspension. On the pegs, dislocated and broke both my ankles. I was in shock. I rode into the first, sat down, looked down, my ankles are next to my legs, and I rode in the first corner, and I was like, I think I broke my ankles. And then the pain started to hit, and in shock, I was like, if I fall over right now, I'm going to crush my dislocated ankles. So I don't even like to think about this, but I put both my feet down and held myself up with my feet that were both dislocated. That's when the pain hit me. So I start yelling, and this is the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life. And I guess I'm fortunate enough to say that that's the worst, but it was pretty bad.
That's pretty brutal.
So Larry from All Sport, he's one of the salesmen over there. He comes over, pulls me off the bike, and I just lay down on my back. And so I ended up going to the hospital, took an ambulance ride, was able to get transferred from Sacred Heart over to Kootenai, which is where my surgeon that had done my ankle previously was at. And I requested to get in with him, which was really cool. I was actually able to have the surgery done by the same surgeon that had previously done it. So he was kind of familiar, with it. So so had surgery. Basically, I re-broke my fibula. I on my right leg, re-broke my fibula, and then I broke my talus, which is basically one of like a few bones in your body you really never want to break. Unfortunately,
the scaphoid and
yep. And I don't know if there's any other. It's because of lack of blood flow. They don't get much blood flow because there's a bunch of cartilage around them. So there's 3 arteries that go to that bone. I broke my talus on my right side. The talar neck is what it's called, and it right on the talar neck is one of the 3 arteries that go to that bone. So I cut off blood supply completely from one of those arteries, and it's still that way today. So my surgeon, I'm obviously, drugged up in the hospital because I'm, got a pretty serious situation going on here. And my surgeon comes in, and this is a legitimate risk. He was like, basically, like, that bone can die. If that bone does not get sufficient blood flow, that bone can die. And if that dies, there is a risk, a potential of us having to take your foot. And that hit me like a bus. I was like, I was freaking out. I was like, my snowmobile career is over. My life is going to be drastically changed. My entire life. And like, I was just starting to freak out. Well, so then I'm like, okay, like we start Googling stuff, which is like one of the worst things you can do. And, in this case, it was actually a good thing because it gave a lot of peace of mind because there's a lot of things they can do before it gets to that point. And obviously that's what he was doing in surgery. But even if it does start to die off, because you don't know for, a few months if it's getting blood flow.
Sure.
And they can tell that in imaging and all that. But so I immediately went deep dive. I'm like, all right, I'm going to figure out how I can support this bone healing as fast as possible because it's also September, which is right before sled season. But at this point, it's more of just saving my foot because I didn't, I didn't know what was going to happen. So I deep dove into every form of therapies, PMF therapies, red light therapies, peptide therapies. I took a hormone panel to make sure my hormones were in check. I did complete diet change. I don't even know what else. Different supplements, blood flow supply supplements, like supporting healthy blood flow. I did everything under the sun. And long story short, I guess it's been a long story already, but I ultimately ended up saving my ankle. And then I started focusing on making sure I was recovered and able to ride snowmobiles. So it happened September 21st, I believe it was, or 21st or 22nd of 2024. January 22nd of 2025 was my first day on the snow. I fortunately enough, blew away everybody as far as like healing time. And they were like, they looked at the imaging and everything. They're like, we can't tell you not to. They were like, my physical therapist specifically was like, he asked me, he was like, yeah, what are you doing? He's like, where you're at 6 months is where I see people at with the same injury at a year. And I was like, I have been very strict. I went daily to PEMF therapy, which if you don't know what that is, you can look it up. Red light therapy, like every single thing. I was to a T. And my wife is a saint. Like, she took care of me this whole time, took me to all those appointments and made food, the weird food that I was doing, made sure I was getting every supplement I needed, and everything. But it's crazy how much that makes a difference. And kind of going back to the athlete thing, that right there to me is what an athlete is. Like, doing everything you can to get back to 100%. And given I was not 100% even by the end of the season, but I was able to perform and do what I needed to do for my sponsors and for my obligations,
Yeah, and I would probably bet that the work you were doing prior to set you up far better,
right,
to come back quicker.
Right. And I've always taken, my health and you know the gym very seriously. So I know that does play an effect into bouncing back from a serious injury. But I didn't really lock in until like 110% until this injury.
Yeah.
And it just kind of gave me some perspective of like, I want to be able to do the things that I can do for a really long time. And if I don't take that seriously, I won't be able to. So.
What was the darkest part of your recovery?
That watching everybody else ride snowmobiles while you didn't. Well, okay, I shouldn't say that. The potential of losing my foot was the darkest part. I was scared. I don't have any pride in saying that I wasn't scared, because I was scared. I mean, I given I was on drugs, but one of the times that I broke down in the hospital, I remember Jaden was there and I just couldn't hold it back. I was like, I might not be able to walk. Like everything that my dream has been, I might have just thrown away jumping a stupid electric bike, doing something I said I would never do, and that was really hard. And then moving forward, like obviously you get super motivated about healing and everything and doing all this stuff, and you're like, all right, it's day 2. Like I should be able to walk now, because I've been doing all this stuff.
Yeah.
That's just not the case. It took me 3 months before I started walking. So
I feel like action sports athletes have a really weird relationship with fear, where I think so often, and even like just people that participate in these fields, you handle so many times throughout the year, you get fear, you get nervous, you get scared, but it's a scared or a fear or a something that you're choosing to be a part of, or you can choose not to be a part of it. And I think when people that are so used to being in that realm of fear, when you get hit with something that's like, hey, you have no say in how this go. Obviously you can do all of the things to help yourself, but like at the end of the day, the doctor can be like, hey, you did everything you could, wasn't enough.
Right.
Sorry. And like, I think that always hits, like for myself, like it's one of the things, like when I lack control, which I think is why I hate riding passenger in a car. I hate flying because you're just sitting there and it's like the potential of injury or things could be so high, and there's nothing I can do to stop it from happening. Right. And like that scares the living shit out of me. So hearing something like that, I could totally imagine being like,
it's scary.
A knife to the heart.
It is 100%. And like you're saying, like athletes definitely have a unique relationship with fear, and you kind of you almost become numb to it, and sometimes you kind of like, it's what fires you up a little bit too, like going into a jump or that kind of thing. And it's weird because if somebody says, I don't care who they are, if they say that they don't get scared when they're lining up for a 200-foot gap jump, like they're lying to you. I don't believe that.
Or they're a psychopath.
Yeah, or they're absolutely insane. And like I have witnessed, some of the top athletes that, they just aren't feeling it. And I can guarantee you that feeling is because of fear. Like as much as they don't want to admit it, like, oh yeah, but it's also something that we thrive on, and it's weird, but
well, it's a delicate, dude. It's like a fear fuels adrenaline,
right?
And adrenaline fuels like this euphoric feeling, but like you don't get one without the other almost. And it's a delicate balance.
It's an interesting thing that you don't understand until you have experienced it yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the heavy part of, well, I guess here would be another question for someone like you, is like balancing like that fear, because oftentimes you guys are under such pressure to get the shot, complete the thing, and you're battling that back and forth feeling of, this is either sketchy and I don't feel comfortable doing it. And I think oftentimes like there's still like this window, you feel like you can push through that and it's fine. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, your body's just giving you these kind of cues. But then there's also like I think most people would say. It's like, I know when I go up to something, it's like, I know it's just like a kind of a fake fear that I'm having, and I'm just getting a little antsy with it. And then there's a real one where I'm like, you know what? It's not happening today. I'm done. How do you balance that? I
think you just learn time. It just takes time. You have to do it. Basically, like, there's so many times that, like, in my early stages, I remember the first jump I ever hit on a snowmobile, and it was in Cook City. Actually, I have a lot of good memories in Cook City, and bad ones, I guess. But you know, you have to go into the, like, kind of methodical side of things of, like, okay, can a snowmobile do what I want it to do right now? Like, is it actually possible, no matter who's on it, can a snowmobile do what I want to do? Will it leave this lip? Will it balance out? Can I adjust in the air? A person balance out? And can you land on the landing? Like, and I'm talking about, you know, jumping, and there's different aspects of snowmobiling, obviously, too. But, you know, there's, you just have to think about it. And I think it gets a lot of people in trouble that don't necessarily think about it. But it's also one of those things that, like, that's a hard question. It really is. And like I said, I think it just takes time, and you learn to figure that out the more you ride and the more you start pushing yourself of what is going to work and what isn't going to work, what you are capable of and what you aren't capable of.
Yeah. I mean, and shoot, even the mental side of that, like, that's like a double-edged sword, because how many times have I watched a guy overthink this thing, psych themselves out, and then they don't do what they instinctually would have done.
And learning to say no is a challenge. You don't, like, I have said no in the past. As an example of that, it was actually the same day I did my first backflip. But anyway, I was up riding with Riley Suhan and Josh Gerber with Mike Reeve. He works very close to the 509 doing filming and stuff. And we were filming a webisode. And it was actually kind of crazy, the backflip thing. We were just riding, got up to the spot, and Josh was like, yeah, this is a really good place to do backflips. And he was like, you guys want to build it? And we're like, sure. Like, no intention of doing backflips that day at all. And Riley did it, Josh did it, and then I was up, and they were like, do you want to do it? And I was like, well, I'm not feeling scared right now. Sure. Because I knew it was possible. I knew I had what it took to do it. I just didn't know if I could put it together. And so did it, landed it, and wrote it out. And I was like, okay, that was pretty cool. Like, that fired me up. So we went into Turtle, which is the area we were at riding. And we went back, and I don't know what the jump's called, but it's like a shark fin, but it's a very limited runway. Like, it has an uphill, and then it flattens out. And then from that flat point to the lip is how long you have to get speed for it. So at the time, I was on an NA 850, a non-turbo sled, and Riley was on a Skidoo turbo, and Josh was on a Polaris Boost, so turbo. And I watched both of them hit that jump. It was built already. I don't know who built it, but we were like, oh, sick. Like, we can kind of just hit this jump that's already built. And they both hit it, and they case it both times. And then they hit it again, and they're like, all right, I just need to go faster. So again, case it again. Riley ended up kind of hurting his knee too, unfortunately. But I was like, okay, I have an NA sled. They're on turbos. They're not making this landing. If I try this, it's a film day with 509. Like, you don't just not try things. It's not a day to just decide not to do stuff. And I was like, you know what? I don't think I should do this. And I said no. And I to this day, I think about it. But every time I think about it, I remind myself of, like, I'm glad I didn't, because I would have cased it. It was probably 150 to 170-ish foot gap, and I would have cased it, and I would have seriously injured myself.
Yeah.
So, you know, like, that's kind of an example of that, I guess, of learning when to say no is a big part of that.
So do you think, well, and I think just through some previous conversations that I've had with you, like in the last, yearish or so, maybe not yearish, but last 5 months, you kind of had a mental shift with how you're looking at sledding.
Yeah, definitely. And it's probably, I would say about year and a half or so. It's really easy to go into, once you start getting some sponsors and whatnot, of getting into the mentality of like, if there's no money involved, I'm not doing it, which is insane to think about. Especially now. I've gone into this season, especially, and the last couple seasons. Last year, my goals were just to ride, just to be able to ride because of my injury and everything. But, this season, I've told a lot of my sponsors, like, I just want to have fun. Like, obviously, I want to make all of the deliverables that I have for my sponsors. I will do that. But I want to have fun snowmobiling because that's why I snowmobile, is to have fun. Like, I just I love being out there. I love being in the mountains. I love riding. I love doing all these funky hopovers and re-entries and jumps and trying new things and tricks. Like, I just have so much fun doing it, and there's always a smile under my helmet, and that's I got stuck in a little bit of a rut of being like, oh well, how are we going to fund this trip? Like, let's see if we can get some sponsors to pay for it or something like that. And it's like, no, like, I want to go on that trip because I want to ride snowmobiles. Like, I'm going to go on it regardless. I've just shifted a little bit of my mentality, a lot of my mentality, I guess, from that to I just want to have fun. And that's kind of where I'm at. And I think with that mentality shift comes all of those other, benefits, I guess. Because when you're having fun, you're riding your best and you're able to capture that better, I think.
Yeah.
And my wife is a huge part of that too. Like, she saw how down I was getting and like frustrated I was getting when things weren't working out in that aspect. And she was like, why are you even doing this? Like, you're not even having fun anymore. And I was like, oh, you're right. Like, I do this because I want to have fun. And that's the point of it, Yeah. So.
Well, and I think it's like infectious too. Like, when you just watch, people riding and having fun, like that's what all of us are out there to do. Like, I'm sure as shit I'm not riding to get sponsors, like, like I'm riding because it puts a smile on my face. And when I watch the guys that are better than me having a smile on their face, and I will say for your wife, one of the things that I always think she does such a good job at is like bringing it back down to the fact that it's snowmobiles.
Right. Yeah. It's a very small industry. It is. It's literally just snowmobiles, like,
which perfectly timed means a lot.
Yes. And in certain people's eyes, it is huge.
Yeah.
And I feel like, that's the case with myself too. It's what I love to do, and it's the industry that I want to be a part of, but it's still just snowmobiles.
Yeah. Well, and the legacy isn't always about the likes, on Instagram and that. It's so much more than that. And honestly, with that, like, I'd be so curious to hear your take on, like, what do you want people, like, when they hear Scott Eyer with sleds? Like, how do you want to be perceived, or how do you want to be kind of taken years from now?
Oh, that's one you didn't give me any heads up on. I don't know. That is a hard question. I want to be, I guess, perceived as like, I don't even know how to answer this question. Like, obviously, like, I want to be able to do the best that I can as a rider, skill wise. And like, I would love to be perceived as, oh yeah, like, that guy goes pretty big, like, I think anybody would want that. But also, like, I would love to be perceived as the person that encourages the future riders to do what we're doing now. Like, I think that's the biggest thing of, like, the inspiration, like be like, oh yeah, like I mean, I can list off all the athletes that inspired me. Like Riley, I'm actually good friends with Riley Suhan now, but he inspired.
He's such a good guy.
He is a good guy. Yeah, he's Canadian. All Canadians are nice, but he inspired me to do a lot of this stuff, and Turcotte, and all those guys like that. That is what I want when I'm older, and and not doing this, retired, I guess, if that's what you want to call it, but I think that's probably the best way for me to answer that.
I like it. Well, what's next? What you got going on this coming season?
A lot of fun having. So this is my first year on a turbo. I've always been an NA guy. I've never ever been like, I don't want a turbo, or I've never been like, I want a turbo, but I have always said no on that. And main reason for that is because I love jumping, and having that throttle response is huge for jumping. Well, the turbos nowadays are pretty dang good on throttle response. So that combined with a couple aftermarket parts and from some sponsors, I'm ready to make that switch. And luckily, I was able to get out October 30th, I think it was, to ride the sled, just put some braking miles, and it's going to be some adjusting this year. Those things are fast, but that's going to be the biggest thing, is just like trying to wrangle that thing. But have a few trips in mind. I actually next week am headed up to Revelstoke with 509. I don't know when this is going up, but I might be.
It'll be out when you're there.
Okay. So yeah, I'll be riding snowmobiles right now.
Oh yeah, dude.
And then have a few other trips planned. So yeah.
Well, right on, man. Well, we're looking forward to watching you, and we appreciate you coming on, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me, and yeah, I'm excited for this to grow too. This is super cool. So.
All right. Cheers, buddy. Thanks, everyone.